Mark Carney just flipped the entire North American power structure upside down. And Donald Trump is sitting at Mar-a-Lago right now realizing he has zero leverage left. Because what Carney did wasn't just a press conference, it wasn't just a policy announcement. It was the complete and deliberate dismantling of an assumption that has governed this continent for 70 years. That Canada needs America more than America needs Canada. That assumption is dead. To understand how we got here, you need to go back 3 weeks. February 28th. Trump posts on Truth Social at 3:47 in the morning, because of course he does, announcing that he's considering 25% tariffs on all Canadian imports. Everything: lumber, oil, natural gas, electricity, steel, aluminium. He called it a fair trade correction. Because in Trump's alternate reality, buying resources from your closest ally at market rates is somehow Canada taking advantage of America. His exact words were, Canada has been ripping off the American people for decades. Time to make them pay their fair share. 25% tariffs coming soon. They will beg us to negotiate. Beg. He used the word beg. So what did Mark Carney do? In March 20th, 2025, Prime Minister Mark Carney stood before Parliament and said something that no Canadian leader has ever had the courage to say out loud. He looked directly into the camera and announced that Canada was moving forward with what he called permanent economic sovereignty measures. Not temporary, not conditional, permanent. He's building trade infrastructure that completely bypasses American markets. Preliminary agreements already signed with the European Union, Japan, and South Korea. And here's the part that should genuinely terrify Trump. Mexico. Yes. Canada just pulled Trump's own USMCA trade partner into a separate deal, one that effectively isolates the United States from both of its neighbors. He waited exactly 48 hours. No panic from Ottawa. No emergency cabinet meetings that the press could photograph. Nothing. Just silence. And then on March 2nd, Carney delivered a 6-minute address. So calm, so measured, so completely devastating that Trump deleted his original Truth Social post within 2 hours. Carney said, "We have modeled every economic scenario involving American tariffs. We have contingency plans in development since 2016. If the United States chooses economic warfare, we will not retaliate. We will simply move forward without them. Without them. Not against them, without them." That's the line that shook Trump. Because there's nothing you can do to a country that has decided it simply doesn't need you anymore. Here's what Trump never calculated. Because Trump has never calculated anything more complex than his own approval ratings. Canada supplies over 60% of all American crude oil imports. Not 31%, not 40%, over 60%. This is according to the US Energy Information Administration's own data. In the middle of gas prices already hitting $4.50 per gallon in California, Trump threatened tariffs on the one resource that keeps American cars and trucks moving. Here's what Trump never calculated. Because Trump has never calculated anything more complex than his own approval ratings. Canada supplies over 60% of all American crude oil imports. Not 31%, not 40%, over 60%. This is according to the US Energy Information Administration's own data. In the middle of gas prices already hitting $4.50 per gallon in California, Trump threatened tariffs on the one resource that keeps American cars and trucks moving. Northern states, Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, all of them heavily dependent on Canadian hydroelectric power. All of them swing states. And then there's the nuclear option, the one Carney has been quietly holding in his back pocket. Canada produces 24% of the world's uranium, and in 2024, one-third of all uranium purchased by US nuclear reactors came from Canada, making it America's single largest foreign uranium supplier. You know what needs uranium? Nuclear power plants. You know who's been screaming about nuclear energy being America's clean energy future? The Republican Party. You know who can't build a single new reactor without Canadian uranium? The United States of America. While Trump was rage posting at 4 a.m. about lying Canadian Carney, the president of the European Commission was boarding a plane to Ottawa. Ursula von der Leyen didn't send an envoy. She didn't schedule a video call. She got on a plane and flew there herself. When reporters asked why she was prioritizing Canada over ongoing negotiations with 6 other countries, she smiled and said, because Canada is about to become the most important trading partner the EU has in North America. In North America, not the Western Hemisphere, North America. Implying that the United States is no longer the primary consideration. On March 9th, they signed a preliminary agreement, something unprecedented, a transatlantic rare earth mineral supply chain that completely excludes the United States. Canada has rare earth deposits in the Northwest Territories that have sat undeveloped for decades, because historically it was cheaper to just trade with the US. That calculus just changed. Canada is now shipping those minerals to Europe. Europe is processing them with green energy infrastructure. And together, they're building a technology supply chain that makes both Canada and the EU independent of both American and Chinese rare earth materials. Trump handed China and America's closest allies to each other on a silver platter because he wanted to look tough on social media. And then came the knife in the back. I have to say, watching Trump get outmaneuvered by the very country he spent his entire first term demonizing, that's the kind of poetic justice that almost makes you believe in karma. March 14th. President Claudia Sheinbaum, who only took office in October and whom Trump assumed would be easy to push around, flew to Toronto. Not Ottawa, Toronto. She met with Carney at a private residence, no press allowed, for 11 hours. When has Trump ever focused on anything for 11 hours besides his own reflection? When they emerged, they announced the Great Lakes Trade Corridor, a trade route that uses Canadian rail infrastructure to move Mexican goods to Canadian ports, which then ship directly to Europe and Asia, without ever touching American soil. Mexico gets Atlantic access without Gulf Coast bottlenecks. Canada gets manufacturing partnerships that replace American contracts. And the United States? The United States watches $40 billion in annual logistics revenue vanish from its economy. Trump called Sheinbaum the next day. We know because he posted about it himself. And according to his own post, she told him that Mexico needs to diversify for economic security. In diplomat speak, we don't trust you, and we are done pretending.